From its unknown history to its amazing beauty. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out the 10 most amazing things about the Grand Canyon. Number 10. It's old, but we don't know how old. One of the most amazing things about the Grand Canyon is that it's a natural landmark, meaning that it was literally nature who helped carve it out and shape it into the tourist attraction and landmark we know today. And for the most part, we know how it was formed. It was the Colorado River that slowly but surely carved out this amazing canyon, and the end result is what we see now. But here's the question that no one is really able to answer. When exactly was it made? For a long time, it was stated that the Grand Canyon is about 6 million years old, which means it preceded humanity by a very large portion of time. But there are some scientists who actually put that number in question. A study done in 2012 has the Grand Canyon being closer to 70 million years old, which is a much longer period of existence. And not only do they say that, but they think that the Grand Canyon originally started out as a series of canyons that were eventually joined together by the river slowly carving the rest of it out. Granted, we will never truly know how long it took to form, barring a time machine, but it's curious to think about, that's for sure. Number 9. Bigger than a US state. One of the things that really blows the minds of people who see the Grand Canyon is that it's huge. And again, it was made by nature, which means that nature was able to make something this huge and epic with nothing but time and effort. But when you calculate the actual size of the Grand Canyon, you'll find that it's 1,904 square miles in size, which is truly massive. But if you start looking at the states that comprise the US, you'll find that it's quite a bit bigger than the smallest state in the country, Rhode Island. That's right, the Grand Canyon is bigger than Rhode Island, which is only about 1,212 square miles. Part of the reason for the Grand Canyon's size is because of its depth and length. It could go a mile deep into the earth at places, and it's 10 miles across in other areas. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? With its size, should the Grand Canyon be its own state? Probably not, given the living conditions people would have to get used to. Number 8. It has its own weather system. Before we talk about the amazing weather diversity at the Grand Canyon, take a moment to like this video and join the Zero to Hero community by using the buttons below. I want you to think about a place where you live where it seems like the weather can shift on a dime. And if that does happen, it's often because of the weather systems that converge on an area in such a way that it causes things like going from rain to shine, and back to rain, or having snow one minute and having it melt by the time the day is over. Because of how and where the Grand Canyon is constructed, it is able to sustain its own unique weather system. This is because of its elevation. Since the Grand Canyon can be as high as 8,000 feet in elevation and as deep as a mile into the earth, the temperature, wind, and more will grow or shrink depending on your location within the place. For example, if you go from the top of the Grand Canyon to the bottom of it, you'll feel yourself getting hotter as you descend by about 5.5 degrees for every 1,000 feet, to be exact. This also means that the weather conditions like rain or shine will depend on where you are in the canyon as well. So if you decide to take a trip there, which I highly recommend, prepare for whatever may blow your way. Number 7. How low can you go? Technically speaking, the Grand Canyon reaches into the earth about 6,000 feet in certain places, making it a pretty deep canyon. You might even think this is the deepest canyon in the world, but it's not. It's not even close, to be honest. That honor goes to the Yarlung Zangpu Gorge in Tibet. That particular canyon can reach an incredible depth of 17,567 feet down in certain places, which makes it well double and almost triple the depth of what the Grand Canyon can do. There's also the length factor. The Yarlung Zangpu Gorge is one that is nearly 3 times the size of the Grand Canyon in terms of length, for it's 30 miles longer than the Grand Canyon. That is a really big canyon. Don't get me wrong, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that the Grand Canyon is very impressive in its own right, but that doesn't mean that the canyon is the biggest in the world, as we've proven here. Number 6. Lots of caves. Given how the Grand Canyon was formed via water and erosion over a long period of time, there was never any doubt that certain caves and passageways were cut out from the earth by this over time. But what might surprise you is the sheer amount of them that are in the Grand Canyon. Hidden within the Grand Canyon are an estimated 1,000 caves. Of those, 335 have been recorded. Very few have been mapped or inventoried. Most have developed in the limestone of the Redwall and Moab formations, although some are known to exist in other formations. Some caves are well known and over the years have been frequented often by visitors, such as the Cave of the Domes on Horseshoe Mesa. This is fascinating for many reasons, not the least of which is that many of these caves haven't been properly explored, which means there could be some very interesting discoveries just waiting to happen. There have already been findings of fossils from ancient Ice Age animals and fauna, and there are some caves that host all kinds of animals. So imagine how much more we would know about the Grand Canyon's past if we just explored the caves. But there's one thing you aren't likely to find in them. Number 5. Dinosaur bones. You know the phrase, timing is everything? Well, in the case of the Grand Canyon, that's most definitely the case in one particular instance. I mentioned in the last entry that there have been fossils found of certain Ice Age plants and creatures, but not found at all are dinosaur bones. This is odd at first, because dinosaur bones have been found all over the planet, and there have been some incredible finds within a short distance from the Grand Canyon itself. And given the composition of the Grand Canyon, which has many materials which would easily contain dinosaur bones if given the chance, you'd think that there would be dinosaur bones there. But there aren't, at all. And there's a very simple and logical reason as to why. While the canyon itself may not have been carved until 6 to 17 million years ago, at best guess, the area that the canyon was formed in was around for billions of years before that. And because the dinosaurs lived on the Earth in the middle of that period, that means that the canyon wasn't around to hold the bones or be an ecosystem for the dinosaurs to live in. While there's a chance that the dinosaurs could have lived in the area before the canyon was formed, there's honestly no proof of that. And we know that dinosaurs didn't live all over the world, just in a majority of places on it. Number 4. There aren't a lot of fish in the rivers. Looking at the Grand Canyon as a whole, you're going to see some unique and diverse wildlife. You'd have to, given the condition of which the animals have to live in. For example, the heat, elevation, lack of certain greenery, and so on and so forth. But eventually, when you come to the rivers, you'll notice something very interesting. There aren't a lot of fish in them. One of the big reasons for this is that the Colorado River, which created the canyon, is very salty. It's known to flood, and it has a great degree of temperature difference. So, as such, there are only 8 species of fish in the waters of the Grand Canyon, and 6 of them can only be found in the Colorado River section. Number 3. The rock squirrel. So while the Grand Canyon doesn't have the most diverse population of animals ever, it does have some that you need to look out for. But the one you need to look out for the most is the rock squirrel. No, I'm not joking. You need to be careful of the squirrels. Every year, about 12 people are bitten by rock squirrels. Why? Because they get too close to the squirrels because they think they're cute, regular squirrels and they try to feed them. And thus, they get bit. To try and prevent this, there are signs telling you not to feed the squirrels. And so you've been warned. Number 2. A gateway to the beyond. It's not surprising when a person or tribe places a certain significance on a landmark, and the Grand Canyon is no exception. The local Hopi tribe is one that believes that the Grand Canyon isn't just a landmark made by nature, but a place that is instrumental in the journey to the beyond. According to them, when you pass on from this life, your spirit will start to walk the canyon. You'll head west until you reach a place of emergence located where the Colorado and Little Colorado rivers meet, and it is there that you'll go into the afterlife. Number 1. It's one of the most visited parks in the country. Okay, so this one may not be the biggest surprise on Earth, but it's one that needs to be said. The Grand Canyon is a marvel to behold up close, and that's why it's one of the most popular parks in all of the United States. Around 6 million people a year visit the park, which is a pretty big number when you think about it. Strangely though, the only park that beats it in terms of annual visitors are the Great Smoky Mountains that are in North Carolina and Tennessee. Another thing to note is that this amount of visitors was not always typical of the Grand Canyon. Oh no, when the park opened all the way back in 1919, the visitor numbers were about 19,000 per year. Granted, that was still in the relatively early days of transportation in the US, but still, that's pretty low. But once things got rolling and facilities and transportation got better, people started to flock to the Grand Canyon, and that hasn't changed since. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon? Tell us about your experience in the comments below, and take care.